Here we go. Brilliant. Okay. Hello, everyone. And yeah, thank you again for joining. As I mentioned, I'm going to be talking about hormones today, and particularly around the fact that they're going to be influencing the menstrual cycle, which I'm sure you probably know it's sort of that fifth vital sign for women in terms of our health. So actually understanding the root cause of issues around, let's just jump to the hormones. In fact, understanding hormones, issues around them, like it does sound quite generic because actually we have our whole body is reliant on hormones in the sense that they are the chemical messengers in our body. But the ones that I'll be talking about are the major culprits that can actually manifest with major sort of different signs and symptoms. Okay, so I'll start with introduction to myself quickly, for those of you that don't know me. My name is Izzy and I'm a nutritional therapist and a naturopath. I've been practicing since 2016, started sort of my studies over 10 years ago, and I've also do herbal medicine and kinesiology. So I have quite a breadth of approach when it comes to dealing with women's health, because I have this whole nutrition, like functional medicine side, like, oh, you know, we can do tests and things like that, interpreting like exactly what's going on. But then I also have the sort of more traditional naturopathic side around using herbs to support the body and thinking about the emotions, thinking about all these lovely naturopathic techniques, which perhaps you won't get the clinical trials and evidence for, but these are things that we've been doing for hundreds and thousands of years as women to support our health, which I just think it's the perfect interplay between how we should be looking at our health and how hopefully the future of medicine will be. I do love talking about natural medicine. I'm so passionate about this because natural medicine, you may have heard me say this before, but it is completely sustainable. You know, we're not harming the environment by doing it. It is accessible. We can do a lot of these things for free. Just simply, I was saying last week, using water as hydrotherapy, hot and cold water can have such a super healing action on the body. So again, that's pretty much free, although obviously bills are going up, but you know, breath work, grounding, all these things, they're free. So it's accessible, it's affordable, it's safe, but it's powerful. And of course, when we are connecting to natural medicine, we're healing not just ourselves, but everyone around us. We're helping the animals that don't have to get tested on. We're helping the environment because we're actually becoming stewards of the environment when we rely on it for our medicine. So I really do believe that this is the direction we should be taking for our health, because there's just no downside of it. So if any of you do need to jump off early, then my details are here. If you did have questions, this is my email, Instagram, website, and then also where's it gone? I didn't know that was a link. Also, I have got an in-depth course which is launched on this, so if you want to check it out, you can do there. But okay, so let's go back to the hormones. So I sort of did the sneak preview of this just so that we're all on the same page. I know actually quite a lot of you on this call have experience in health, etc. already. So apologies that we're all probably going to be at different stages of our understanding. So I will just work on the journey together. So basically, as I said, hormones are our chemical messengers that will be controlling everything in our body. So without hormones, we don't do anything. We'd be a glob on the floor. But the ones that may have a bigger impact on our cycle would be sort of our sex hormones, because they are the ones that play the role in reproduction. So we're thinking androgens, testosterone is a classic example, estrogens. So just to be clear, estrogen is actually a category of hormones. So you have estradiol, estrone, estriol, and they all have similar estrogenic effects. So they come under the heading of estrogens. And we also have progestogens. So basically we're going to be thinking about progesterone there. And they are typically, these sex hormones, they're going to be made in the ovaries, testes if you're a man, and also the adrenal glands as well. So often when women have gone through the menopause, the adrenal glands will take over as sort of the main producers of a lot of the sex hormones. So, well, estrogens mainly. So this is another reason why thinking about supporting the adrenal glands is going to be really crucial for hormonal health. And I'll be talking about that. So you've probably heard the term hormonal imbalance. I mean, is it a hormone imbalance? It's one of those where I think it's quite an easy way to describe something where you've probably got the ratios of the hormones maybe not in the right way that's going to be supporting your health, which is what I'll be talking about. So we're thinking about either a deficiency or an excess, where but the nuances comes when we're talking about the ratios. For example, I'll be talking about estrogen, and high estrogen will also manifest as low progesterone. So you want to get the ratios of a lot of these hormones in the correct way, and that's sort of, it's more about the ratios than the amounts actually. So that's what hormones are, and why are my hormones wreaking havoc with my life? That is exactly what I'm planning to answer. So I don't know, obviously, if any of you have got specific concerns, then feel free to ask questions as well. Okay, so what is next? What is going on with mine? So I've just picked out some of the really common ones that I see in clinic. And first of all, I mean, high estrogen is such a big one, unfortunately, because basically estrogen is our building hormone. It is our feminizing hormone. It gives us boobs, it gives us hips, it gives us periods and puberty. But unfortunately, there are certain types of estrogen which are more prone to give you the perhaps negative effects of that building. So putting on too much weight, building too much tissue in the body that we're getting cysts and fibroids and lumps and bumps, basically. And of course, it's intimately linked with our menstrual cycle. So high estrogen could create issues around ovulation, so not ovulating and ovulation. Estrogen also governs our cervical mucus. So thinking about our vagina and the pH, thinking about sort of infections like thrush, etc., and estrogen can commonly be involved there. It is linked, as I said, with fibroids, and sort of with endometriosis as well. The endometriosis does have an autoimmune component too. Oh, I put cervical mucus twice. Okay. Anyway, so we like mucus. And so estrogen, I'll be talking next about sort of the signs and symptoms of high estrogen, because as I said, it's really, really common that we're seeing women and even men manifesting with high estrogen. And then, as I said, high estrogen and low progesterone sort of go hand in hand. And therefore, if we're seeing lots of high estrogen, we're also seeing lots of low progesterone. So progesterone, really easy to remember what it does, because if you think about the term progestation, it is for gestation, progesterone. So this is really the hormone that we need to have sort of a healthy pregnancy. So often low progesterone might be associated with sort of miscarriages, and also progesterone is sort of the holding hormone. So estrogen will build up lots of sort of blood, if we think about it in its building. So build up the blood, it'll build up the endometrial lining, and progesterone will hold it in. So a common symptom of low progesterone is spotting between the periods, because if you've got low progesterone, you're not getting that sort of holding aspect, and so the sort of endometrial lining will start shedding. And also it supports thyroid function. So again, just there's this really key interrelation between all these hormones. So I will be talking about thyroid, but having lovely levels of progesterone, we will support our thyroid, but low levels of progesterone will also sort of manifest as low thyroid as well. Very, very common too. High androgens. So high androgens, basically what we're seeing is sort of high testosterone, which can be associated with polycystic ovarian syndrome. PCOS also very much a sort of high estrogen condition as well. There's sort of different types of how it manifests. But too much testosterone will also be linked with sort of not ovulating, irregular menstrual cycles, and also I'll be talking about other signs and symptoms. Now, another very common hormone that we need to be thinking about is cortisol. So cortisol is produced by our adrenal gland. And so cortisol, when we're thinking about, as I said earlier, supporting our adrenal glands, understanding cortisol levels in the body will be really, really key to promoting the health of our adrenals, because cortisol is it's our hormone that we produce under stress. So as you can imagine, a lot of people have high cortisol. However, the flip side of that is if we are stressed on a long-term basis, a bit like anything, you're using these hormones sort of consistently, and therefore they get tired. The adrenal glands get tired, and so we see this sort of maybe chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, very much associated with low cortisol, where actually cortisol just flattens and you can't get any peak. Because we do need cortisol. We need cortisol every morning. It'll wake us up to get us going. A bit of stress is good for the body. It's when it's chronically elevated, that's when we can start to see issues, and then eventually it'll flip from being too high to just on the floor, flatlining. And so unfortunately, again, in the medical system, they tend to say you've either got Addison's disease or Cushing's, which is sort of either super, super high, super, super low. They don't allow for before it gets to the point of sort of death, the fact that it does drop. So yeah, we are seeing this sort of rise of people that are just on the floor, they just can't get out of bed because they've just got nothing left. And that's sort of when you've been so stressed, you push yourself too far. And then my other favorite, of course, would be our thyroid hormone. So thyroid hormone, well, there are quite a lot of thyroid hormones, so I'm generalizing here. Our thyroid function, having low thyroid function. So this is basically our thyroid is producing less of its hormone. So the most common one would be T4, thyroxine, but T4 does actually convert to T3, which is very, very much more active form of thyroid hormone. But so there can be issues with conversion around T4 to T3. But if we're just thinking generally about thyroid function, if our thyroid isn't optimal, then this will be actually increasing estrogen. It's going to be increasing, there's a whole load of symptoms. But yeah, it'll be decreasing our sex hormone binding globulin, SHBG. And sex hormone binding globulin basically goes around and binds up all these sort of excess hormones. So therefore we need a level of SHBG to sort of moderate, for example, the level of testosterone in our blood. So if that is lowered, then we're going to get higher levels of androgen. So you can see there's this sort of interrelation between all our different parts of the body. So you can't just look at one. And that's why, I mean, I know everyone's like, you've got a niche, but you can't really niche with health, because you have to understand the whole body really to be able to, find the results, find what's happening. So so this is why I'm sharing with you all really like how we can go into the root causes. So how we need to understand our gut function, how we need to understand sort of our liver function, etc., to really get to what's going on. Does that all make sense? Hopefully. So first of all, I think I will share with you our symptoms of these little hormones, so you can hopefully sort of tie them in with perhaps manifestations that you have. I'm just going to mute whoever it is because there's a bit of background noise. Yeah, so you'll be able to understand the symptoms that might relate to you. Okay, so first of all, we have high estrogen. So estrogen, as I said, it's our lovely building hormone. So we have got weight gain in the hips, thighs, abdomen. We've got fibroids, sort of tender breasts. And then also there's lots of other symptoms, because Estrogen will also build the blood. Estrogen will promote clotting in the blood. So actually headaches, migraines, that's a very common symptom of excess estrogen. Estrogen will also be manifesting estrogen also might be manifesting, basically linked to not sleeping. Also, too much estrogen can decrease the libido, because we think we want a certain amount of testosterone, we want all this sort of stuff to have a high libido, but excess estrogen can sort of muffle the libido. And then, of course, the role it plays in the mood as well. So classic high estrogen would be crying lots, depression, irritability, generally mood swings, and also sort of water retention. It's the holding on to the balance of water. So a lot of like, edema, swelling of the ankles, etc., etc. This is very much estrogen. So I don't know whether you relate to any of these, and it might be at a certain time of your cycle, because obviously our estrogen levels will be fluctuating throughout the cycle. So you might find at certain points in your cycle, this might be you. Or you might actually have a sort of mix and match bag with the low progesterone, because as I said, if we've got high estrogen, we often will have the low progesterone symptoms, or vice versa. So low progesterone, as I said, again, it's our holding. So if we don't have enough progesterone, we might see things like early miscarriage. And also because it does regulate the menstrual cycle, just generally like sort of infertility and things like that. Heavy periods, painful swollen breasts, again, the mood swings, depression, anxiety. Progesterone, because it sort of acts on our pituitary gland, it can be sort of associated with dopamine production, that sort of pride, reward. Dopamine is the neurotransmitter that is boosted when you're doing like dangerous sports or taking cocaine, that sort of thing. So if you're thinking about that sort of level of whoa, that's where progesterone plays a role with that as well. So without that, it's can be pretty miserable as well. And again, water retention, irregular menstrual cycles, sleep. So progesterone can support sleep patterns, help with deeper sleep. So again, lower progesterone can result in sort of waking up, all that sort of thing. And actually a lot of symptoms associated with sort of the menopause as well. And then high testosterone. So testosterone, we're going to be associating this very much with acne, maybe excess hair, discoloration of the armpits, skin tags, and because it is so much governed sort of by insulin, unstable blood sugar, cysts as well, and actually just being a bit more aggressive. You'd sort of expect that from testosterone. So if you're more irritable, and that can be sort of the high testosterone. Unfortunately, what happens is testosterone can get converted by an enzyme called 5-alpha reductase into dihydrotestosterone. And that form of testosterone, well, dihydrotestosterone, is the one that is linked with male pattern baldness. So this is when women that get male pattern baldness, so they're losing hair where they want hair, but then they're getting excess hair where they don't want it. That's very sort of a testosterone picture. And also sort of greasy skin, testosterone will promote oil. And so, that's why we're seeing a rise of sort of acne, dandruff, that sort of thing as well. So then we have our high cortisol picture, which again, I'm sure many of you could probably relate to. This is when we're wired but tired. The cortisol's not letting us calm down in the evening. So you'll sort of maybe you'll get a second wave in the evening before going to bed, and therefore you're finding it difficult to actually get an early bedtime because you're like, oh, I can do some work. Of course, this cortisol, this chronic stress will be giving rise to anxiety, nervousness. And then there's so much cortisol impacts. So it impacts our blood sugar. So like cravings as well, maybe needing after you've had dinner, You just need a little something sweet. That can be your cortisol. And also cortisol, actually, so cortisol, many of you, I don't know, some of you may have taken steroids, so like cortisone cream, because cortisol actually is anti-inflammatory. So this is why it sort of dampens down the immune system, because when you're stressed, the body is obviously trained and programmed to think that we're running away from an immediate danger. So the body does not have time to, I don't know, fight viruses and do all this stuff that's sort of the daily keeping you alive sort of stuff. It's very much prioritizing how to keep you alive, running away from a bear or dragon came to mind, but anyway, so you're running away from something, so the body would just be sending blood to sort of vital organs to keep you alive and all that sort of stuff, rather than dealing with the underlying issues. So this is why a lot of people who are stressed don't get ill, because they don't have time to get ill, and then when you stop working, you go on holiday, you calm down and you get sick because your cortisol levels have lowered. So but this isn't a good thing, obviously, because actually what happens is, because your body is not doing that sort of underlying, I guess, repair, then it just makes everything worse when you do get sick. And cortisol does thin the skin. So this is why it's very much associated with stretch marks as well. So some people may have had stretch marks taking sort of cortisone type creams or pills, etc. And again, high blood pressure, high blood sugar, cortisol will be telling your body to drive protein, again, break down protein in the body, because again, we want to be in survival mode. What the body wants is a constant source of glucose to be able to run. So your body will be breaking down, sources of protein. So your proteins, sort of like collagen, for example, gelatin, all these things that make up your connective tissue, so skin, bones, etc., muscles, they will be breaking down to be turned into a source of energy. So this is why high cortisol is associated with osteoporosis. Okay, so we need to be thinking about the fact that a lot of people lose weight when they're stressed, because they're breaking down all this tissue, but then long term, because they're having such a high amount of glucose and so just sugar, then they'll sort of get that sort of abdominal fat. So it brings that sort of picture. So long term you do put on weight, but I know people are like, I lost so much weight because I was stressed. It's not good. So increased abdominal circumference. Okay, so then the flip side of this is the low cortisol. So this is when it's just so hard to cope. Just everything is like stressed all the time, and just everything's so much harder that you can't think properly. It's burnout, really. Just losing stamina, in the afternoon, crying. And of course, there's all these other knock-on effects as well. So difficulty actually getting better when you have got ill. Again, muscle weakness around the knees as well. So really interesting, because with sort of if you look at the sort of spiritual aspects of why things happen in the body, like the knees are sort of this support thing, and then suddenly they're weak at the knees, and actually there is sort of this biological reason for it as well. Postural hypotension, so basically standing up and having low blood pressure, so standing up quickly, maybe feeling faint, that sort of thing. So that's classic sort of low cortisol. You're not being able to adapt quick enough to just something as simple as sort of standing up. And again, varicose veins, hemorrhoids, because the skin's very thin, all this sort of stuff. And salt cravings. So salt is a real remedy for the adrenals. Some people with sort of adrenal fatigue, burnout, in fact, anyone when you're under stress, actually just a pinch of like good quality salt and some water in the morning can be pretty great actually. That's low cortisol. I think, have we done, oh yeah, thyroid, of course, the key. So thyroid. Now, thyroid is a difficult one because it manifests as so, well, I mean, thyroid is like the master hormone. I keep calling it a hormone, master gland. Hormones on my mind. The thyroid is the master gland, so it does regulate so much of your bodily function. So this is why actually it can be quite difficult to diagnose a thyroid issue, because often it will, you know, there are random symptoms, and so unless you get the classic low thyroid picture, your GP may not necessarily be like, oh, you got low thyroid, because the classic thyroid picture would be hair loss, weight gain, sluggish thinking, maybe depression, all that sort of stuff. But actually, if you think about it, your GP might actually just send you off with some antidepressants. But also, you know, not everyone that has low thyroid function is, for example, overweight. It might be, I've got a lot of clients which have low thyroid function and they are tiny, but the thing is, that's the thing, it will manifest differently in different people. So, but the, you know, what we might be looking for is low sex drive, not just a lack of sex, but yeah, low sex drive, cold hands and feet. So it's governing some circulation. So if you're not getting blood to the hands and feet, that's classic sort of low thyroid, headaches, constipation, heavy periods, fluid retention, dry skin, dry hair, everything really. Miscarriage, actually making sure thyroid is working is really key for fertility, really. Thyroid is key for everything. So it just, I feel like there is sort of this epidemic of whether it's subclinical hypothyroidism. Also, I'm seeing a lot of autoimmune thyroid. So for those of you not familiar with autoimmune thyroid issues, basically this is when our body is attacking sort of thyroid gland, and so therefore we see what can happen with that. We can see really high thyroid manifestations, so we actually high thyroid function. So Graves' disease is sort of the term for the autoimmune condition, or hyperthyroidism. So this is sort of opposite. Hyperthyroidism is like you're going too fast, you know, your heart will beat really fast, your eyes will be bulging out, sort of sweating, all that sort of stuff. Whereas low thyroid, with an autoimmune thyroid condition, it can flip between the two. So again, this is why with testing, if you're getting your thyroid tested, sometimes it might show within range, but actually, unless you're getting a full panel done, you won't get the full picture of what's going on thyroid function. So what can we do? My success approach, I don't think it's my success approach, but I guess that sounds good. Does anyone have any questions on that bit so far? So now I've told you about all of this. Basically, I mean, luckily, if you start by doing all this stuff, then you're actually going to get whatever sort of imbalance of hormones you have. You're actually going to get results for everything. You're going to feel better, because this is just sort of foundational things that we need to do to get our health right, and doing so, this will be supporting our hormones in a big way. And the first thing always would be our liver, because the liver will be supporting the metabolism, metabolizing these hormones, particularly estrogen, because it's a huge problem. Also, you know, our thyroid hormone, everything, it will be regulating our blood sugar levels. And so when we've got our blood sugar levels sorted, then that will also deal with the knock-on effects of, you know, androgens, all these things that are impacted by blood sugar. And the problem is, I'm sure some of you have heard me talk about this before, because it's such an important topic, understanding the liver in terms of what we can do to support it, because it's under so much stress, or just on a daily basis. So I really want you to think about your environment, because this is where most of these horrible toxins that are stressing the liver are coming in from. So we're thinking about household chemicals, we're thinking about beauty products, perhaps making organic food choices, filtering your water. All these things are just going to have a really lovely layering effect of just reducing that load on your liver, because your liver has to do something with all of these. Reducing that load, and therefore the liver can start focusing on your own body, because your liver really is there to deal with, it's there to deal with toxins that you might get bitten by a snake or a bee. So it can deal with those sorts of toxins. It can deal with the toxins that your body produces. But the problem is all these new toxins that have literally just been forced upon us in the past, I don't know, 60, 70, 80, 90 years, that are actually, the liver's just being like, what is this? The liver's in its own sort of fight or flight mode, by having to constantly just deal with all this stuff that's coming in, and therefore it doesn't have a chance to deal with our own bodily sort of toxins, products of hormones and things like that. So that's why I think it's really, really important to get that sorted. And then of course there's so much you can do to nourish your liver, and just give it a hand. So really, really common thing would be to have the green leafy vegetables. So in broccoli, in cauliflower, all these things, they have these phytochemicals, so plant chemicals, such as sulforaphane, which can really help with a detoxification pathway involving sulfur. So would garlic and onions, actually, because they're high in their sulfur content. So there are lots of things which will support liver detoxification. Another one would be turmeric. We love turmeric. We can make turmeric lattes. We can add it into our rice, whatever we're doing, we can add turmeric really sort of religiously into our diet. And I think the thing is, people have got a bit obsessed with bioavailable curcumin and pepper. It's a bit of a like marketing technique, to be honest. Like turmeric it is sort of fat soluble, so having a little fat with turmeric is wonderful, but to be honest, piperine in pepper actually slows down liver detoxification. So the concept behind combining pepper and turmeric is that it slows down turmeric absorption in the body, and therefore you get more of it going around the body. But do we want that? No, we want turmeric to act like it is born to act, like God created turmeric in a certain way. God did not say turmeric must be consumed with black pepper, basically. So we're getting like, it's this sort of confusion between wanting to get sort of, oh, we must get as much turmeric bioavailable in the body by slowing down our liver detoxification of it. But what are you doing if you're slowing down your liver detoxification? You're slowing down your liver detoxification of hormones and things like that. So it really, really irritates me that everyone's like, I am a turmeric black pepper. Yes, maybe in a delicious dish, but beyond that, you don't need to supplement with turmeric, and you don't need to get your curcumin and add with black pepper in it. Don't just buy turmeric. It all comes from the same place anyway, so you don't need to really buy a supplement from it. So I've really gone on a little tangent on turmeric. So then the next thing would be citrus fruits, so lemon, lime, all these things. Sour is the flavor of the liver in Chinese medicine. So sour really does nourish the liver. So fermented foods as well as sour, anything you can get in will be supporting the liver. And I haven't mentioned the herbs here because I think I've got it on a different slide. As a herbalist, we're so lucky. I've got my herbal cabinets of all these lovely things which do support the liver. And then thirdly, what we want to be thinking about is elimination. So ensuring that our other channels of elimination, not just the liver, but our skin, our lungs, our lymphatic system, our kidneys are tip top too. So this is when we have so many beautiful naturopathic techniques for doing this. So dry skin brushing, deep breathing, lymphatic massage, drinking lots of water, obviously, water with parsley is really lovely for the kidneys. So much stuff you can do. Deep breathing not only will help you sort of detox through the lungs, but also some massages, the diaphragm will reach down, massage the liver, and everything's happy when we're breathing correctly. So again, this is another form of medicine which is completely free, and of course breathing will help us get into our parasympathetic nervous system with decreasing cortisol, and so on, so on, so on, so on, so on. So yeah, even just picking one of these things to do will really, really help your health. Okay, so step 2, we want to think about the gut, of course. So the gut, we have a thing called the estrobolome, which is basically, so I'm sure you've heard of the gut microbiome. So, you know, all the little critters, all the lovely yeasts, bacteria, parasites, viruses, all these things that live with us, just chilling, having a great time. We have a specific term for the estrobolome, which is sort of the bacteria which will actually break up estrogen because it likes to feed off estrogen and then allow it, rather than, so therefore instead of it just passing through our stools, so we're excreting all this estrogen, it gets broken up, nibbled up, and then recycled around the body. So we're getting this secondary exposure to estrogen if our gut bacteria, the estrobolome, is not doing what we want it to do. So there's lots of really interesting research around just obviously sort of the bacterial influence, but just generally, if you think about it, you know, we want to be excreting, eliminating everything, not just like these estrogens, but everything that we're passing, that our liver will basically emulsify and make it safe to then be excreted out of the body. So the liver just does such a good job of it, but we need to be supporting the phase 3 elimination, which is through our bowels. So, and of course, you know, gut bacteria and sugar, all this sort of stuff, it all has this knock-on effect. So of course, then we really want to have our regular bowel movements. So just the fundamental would be drinking water. I got too clever, and I would, you know, like everything needs to be really clever. So you forget about the basics of water. And so actually just, I've got back into water because I've stopped being so, you know, you know, so water is just really, really, really powerful. And, you know, I like my water structured. I like to add my herbs to my water, or fruit and vegetables, or adding flower essences. There's so much you can do to potentize your water, depending on what you're working with. So it doesn't actually just have to be boring, but I think the key thing is making sure you are not drinking tap water, which is full of the bloody hormones from everyone taking the birth control pill. And of course exercise, again, just really basic, but so good. But other things what we could do would be, I don't know how many of you have got like a squatty potty, so basically ensuring that your legs are in the correct position to be passing a stool. So we are not designed to sit on the loo, we are designed to squat when we're passing a bowel movement. So basically actually raising your legs, whether that's on a, you can actually buy a squatty potty, or you can just, you know, have your own stool or bin or whatever. Raising your legs will actually help with the elimination, because basically when you're sat like that and you've got a kink, you lift your legs up, and then that allows your stool to pass through in a lovely way. There's a very good video, if you go on YouTube and sort of like how a unicorn does their poo, you'll find a very explanatory video for that. But, you know, again, really, really basic. And there's something that maybe a lot of people might be aware of in terms of actually getting the loo position correct. And then obviously our foods and our herbs, which are going to be supporting bowel movements. So here we're thinking about the bitter foods. We have bitter receptors throughout our body. I know that Raina, Susie, Tracy, you probably had all this before, the year of herbal medicine. But yeah, we have a lot of bitter receptors on our body. And so where am I going with this? Oh yeah, basically we need bitter foods to actually get our bowels moving. So Susie, what water filter do you use? Right now I've got a Berkey. It's quite a big thing, but it's quite good because you can sort of put a whole day's worth of water in. I was distilling. I think with distilled water, you just have to be very careful around mineral intake. So I'd be using a distiller and doing sort of herbal infusions with distilled water. I found it was fine, but I know there's controversy around distilled water, because you basically, with distilled water, you take out everything, which is great because you're taking out the heavy metals, you're taking out, chlorine, fluoride, whatever, hormones, but that does take out the minerals as well. Whereas a Berkey, less so, but there's still stuff in it. And if you don't want to invest in a Berkey, I do recommend sort of just a zero water filter. Zero, there I've typed it in the chat. It's like £30 a little jug, and it's a lot better than a Brita. And only lasts 2 weeks. Oh yeah, get a Berkey then. I'm sure it lasts 2 weeks. I've not had that before. But to be fair, I don't use one myself anymore. So yeah. But yeah, so basically, what else would there be? Oh yeah, just going, tastes so great. Oh, that's so sad. How much is a filter? Does that end up really expensive? Okay, right, yeah. So if not, if you want to get really into water, you can think about plumbing in some reverse osmosis filters. I think there's one, my friend, she really liked fountain filters. Aqua House, Vicky, great. Okay, we'll have to look into that one as well then. Aqua House. Yeah, so there's lots of them around. I think even just starting by doing whatever you can to filter, and upgrading as you go along. So yeah, as you get more into this, then you just end up spending more money on it. But then it's cheaper than buying bottled water. So yeah. Okay, slight water. How is it $8:45? I always do this. Okay, I'm going to speed up. Okay, obviously we want to get rid of sugar, we want to get rid of seed oils that create trans fats, inflammatory foods. So that might be dependent on you might have issues around, I don't know, gluten, etc. But it's not just about removing, we want to replace, we want to support our gut microbiome with our fermented foods. Bone broth or cabbage soups can be really, really healing to repair the gut lining. Cabbage soups are high in glutamine, which is an amino acid, which does seem to be healing of our gut lining. And bone broths have everything in, they've got hyaluronic acid, collagen, glucosamine, all these lovely things which are very healing to connective tissue in the gut lining. Okay, thyroid, right, again, detoxing with thyroid, and thinking around the goitrogens basically inhibit thyroid function. So iodine is our key mineral for the thyroid, but the halides, which are, if you go back to your sort of GCSE chemistry periodic table, the halides which sort of sit above iodine can displace iodine from the thyroid and from the body in general. So that is chlorine, fluorine, bromine, and they are found everywhere. So this is why we definitely want chlorine out of our tap water. Thinking about our shower as well. Showers, actually chlorine, to be fair, it's quite easy to get rid of if you just boil water because it's a gas, so it'll just go into your air instead. But yeah, just even leaving water sort of overnight, chlorine will evaporate. But yeah, bromine, it's in brominated flame retardant, so it's in furniture, it's in carpets, in curtains. So again, it's a bit of a journey in terms of detoxing the house with the bromine for that thing. And fluoride, of course, it's in toothpaste, might be in your water supply. So again, something that really, really want to be conscious of not consuming because of damage on the thyroid and also the other damage it has, but still, that's a whole nother webinar. But there are foods that can inhibit thyroid function. So soy is a big one, and raw cruciferous vegetables like broccoli can inhibit thyroid function. So cook broccoli and you'll be fine. Yeah, lots of things. I think like yams, cassavas, those sorts of things can also do that. And also gluten, if there is an autoimmune thyroid condition, gluten's a big one that you just have to remove because gluten looks very similar to the thyroid. So if you've got gluten floating around your body, you'll start to attack it, and then you'll start attacking gluten, and it starts attacking your thyroid because it's all confusing, etc. So yeah, gluten can be a big one for when you're attacking yourself because gluten can be mistaken for thyroid. So yeah, and rest. So I was going to put like iodine and seaweed in here, but actually I do really want to get people thinking about sort of the emotional and sort of psychological stuff behind what's going on. And thyroid, we're seeing so much low thyroid function. What do we feel when we've got low thyroid function? We feel tired. Okay, so are we deliberately tiring ourselves out by but basically lowering our thyroid? Is our body giving us a message being like, you do too much, I'm going to slow you down? So I quite like that idea around sort of the thyroid. It's not an idea, but like genuinely, like we've got to listen to the messages from our body that's trying to tell us. Another thing is thyroid's very much associated with the throat chakra. So are we being creative enough? Are we expressing our truth? All these sorts of things. We shouldn't underestimate the power of actually making adjustments to how you should be living in alignment to then having the benefit on your body. So yeah, thyroid's very some really interesting case studies around women suppressing their creativity, then taking up sort of art or whatever it is, and then suddenly they have a good thyroid. So yeah. Sylvia, does soy increase estrogens in the body? Heard about phytoestrogens. Okay, so soy is a big one. Interestingly, actually, not all. So we are all individuals in how we metabolize soy, and actually it feels like research shows feels to me research actually shows that Asian women have the gut microbiome which can convert soy into this sort of protective phytoestrogens. So phytoestrogens, for those of you that don't know, are sort of really powerful at protecting the body from these toxic estrogens that are in our sort of chemicals, and also having a sort of gentle estrogenic-like effect on the body, but without all the sort of negative side effects of high estrogen. So phytoestrogens can be used therapeutically to protect your body from dangerous estrogen. So this is why, they'll say, red clover or soy to protect against breast cancer, which is sort of an estrogen-driven disease. But as I said, not everyone has that capability to be using soy in that way. So it's very much individual. And then secondly, because soy disrupts thyroid function, and low thyroid function can cause high estrogen, that's where you can also see soy increasing estrogens in the negative form. So I think many people may have seen, the fact that worry about soy having this estrogenic effect on the body. It's a difficult one because a lot of the studies on soy are funded by big soy. It's huge industry, and so a lot of the studies are very polarizing. It's either it's definitely protective or it's definitely dangerous. So for me, I think with soy, I would just consume it in its traditional way. So when it's being fermented, because when it's being fermented, it doesn't have the goitrogenic effect on the thyroid. Also, it removes trypsin inhibitors. So soy, when it's sort of unfermented, can inhibit trypsin, which we need. It's an enzyme that helps sort of break down protein. So for people taking soy to increase their protein, it's a bit of a paradox. It doesn't quite work. So overall, where I land on soy is don't like it. And I think there are lots of better phytoestrogens that are going to be safer and less toxic to the environment. Because, we're getting these rainforests pulled down to make soy farms. Because if you think about it, they feed our chicken, our cows, everything like that, soy. So we're getting enough soy if you're not, growing your own chickens. Does that make sense? So yeah, I'd say yes and no. Okay, coming up is our adrenals. So I mean, what can we do? We're stressed. Try and find ways that you can not be stressed. This is the least helpful advice in the world, but sometimes some people need to hear it. I don't know why we don't rest, because I'm guilty of this myself. We really need to rest more. We really, really, really do. And again, it's sort of all that sort of is our body sometimes will have to hold us back if we're not resting, because it forces us to rest. We need to heal ourselves. We need to get ill. Being ill is not necessarily like a sign of weakness. our whole body is like detoxing through that illness. So yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's hard, isn't it? But finding, it's not just meditation that you need to do. For example, meditation might not be good for everyone. So breath work, dancing, massage. Yeah, I've found some really grounding activities to do. I'm really enjoying Qigong. I'm really enjoying doing Abhyanga, which is sort of Ayurvedic self-massage in the mornings, all these things, massaging my feet, really lovely. And again, just calms you down and everything's less of a problem, even though you're really behind on everything that you need to do. But things that I've also found really, really helpful is actually aligning with our circadian rhythms, because basically the circadian rhythms are the rhythms of, the earth, day and night. So the last thing we should be doing, apologies, is actually on our laptops when it gets dark, because we're exposing ourselves to blue light, which makes us think that it's daytime, and therefore we're not able to sort of switch off and calm down and then just get everything back in alignment. So if we are thinking around, because it's getting darker earlier and earlier, so actually thinking around sort of reducing blue light exposure, so getting a blue light cover on your phone, getting this app called Flux, which will change the sort of it'll change your phone or your laptop so that it's giving you more of an orange light than a blue light. Of course, again, thinking about, not watching TV before you go to bed, not having your phone before you go to bed, all these sorts of things will actually help switch off cortisol, because obviously these things keep our cortisol levels high. But eventually, we're just readjusting to the way that our body would be living life. So we're getting cortisol levels in the morning, sunrise, we're getting up, we're ready to start the day, it's healthy, and then it's dropping off in the evening. So again, really, really beautiful way that you don't need to, necessarily quit your job to do. And then of course adapting. So we have to build our body's ability to tolerate stress, unfortunately. So this is where we have the adaptogenic herbs, and thinking about our supplements, and there's loads of stuff we can do. So magnesium would be key. I do love a little whole food vitamin C. So, getting some from like rose hips, acerola cherries, those sorts of things, I think they do really well because they support the adrenal glands. And of course, yeah, our adaptogenic herbs. So finding one that works for you. We're running out of time. Diet, okay, sugar, refined sugar. We don't want refined sugar. I think actually carbohydrates aren't the devil. They can actually basically reduce stress response, because our body will be stressed if we're sort of depriving ourselves and fasting, particularly around sort of hormonal issues. So fasting is not necessarily the answer, nor necessarily as a low carb diet, but the refined sugars would be not the one. Seed oils, just terrible. If you're cooking, olive oil, coconut oil, animal fats like ghee, butter, etc. It's probably what I'd do. And then alcohol, of course, it's just another thing for our liver to do. So Vicky, you asked, do you recommend earthing grounding? Absolutely, I do. And I think, so earthing is basically, connecting with the earth, so we can discharge all our positive electrons, which is flying around from all our EMFs and all this sort of stuff, whereas the earth is sort of this reservoir of negative, and so sort of obviously the sea, so jumping the sea be really, really lovely. So yes, there are grounding what would you say, tools that you can do, grounding, earthing mats, all these sorts of things. So yeah, definitely can be really, really valuable for someone as well. And Rina, how do you feel about coconut sugar, jaggery, or honey sweeteners? I love them. I think they're great. I think because they're real. They've got, honey is just wonderful. Jaggery's got so many minerals in. I think the thing is the problem is replacing them to boost your blood sugar when actually you haven't got that sorted. So it depends where you're eating them. If you're craving sugar and you're eating them, it's not going to be good. It's sort of like if you're craving coffee, it's a sign that you shouldn't be having coffee. So I think they're great, but what you want to do is be dealing with the underlying sort of blood sugar issues to manage that. And we all need something sweet, very grounding as well, in the sort of more not grounding, but grounding sense. Does that make sense? So yeah, nourishing, I mean, supplements, pretty boring. Sorry, I shouldn't say that. But we want to talk about the herbs. The herbs are great. Okay, so the digestive herbs, we love dandelion, burdock, motherwort's really lovely for hormonal stuff too. So it's angelica. Liver herbs, I love milk thistle, and schizandra is just a wonderful, beautiful berry, which I think everyone can benefit from. And we also have lots of herbs to support our hormones. What's happening now? I think so. Basically, oh yeah, here we go. Little protocols. Okay, so sorry I'm having to rush, but I'm just conscious of all your time and giving you too much blue light exposure. So okay, excess estrogen. So what do you think we need to do? We want to support the liver. So going back to the liver, actually getting in some herbs, some hepatic herbs, so liver support herbs, to support liver function. And there are lots of things you could do, like a specific liver detox. So that would involve like lots of garlic, some liver detox teas, all these sorts of things. I can obviously help with that sort of stuff. Gut, ensuring there's regular elimination, thinking about getting organic food in, removing alcohol, increasing phytoestrogen. So this is when we'd be looking at fenugreek, red clover, all these sorts of things. Then supplements wise, broccoli sprouts are very much the du jour thing to help produce estrogen, and calcium D-glucarate if there is an issue around the estrobolome, so the gut microbiome, and so the gut bacteria that recycle estrogen. They're sort of dependent on glucuronidase as enzymes, so calc D-glucarate can help with that. Rosemary is really lovely as well. So I had client where I used actually milk thistle, schizandra, and burdock, and yeah, she was actually a what's it called, fertility client, so with eczema, and that all cleared up, and everything was great actually. And again, low progesterone as well, sorry. So yeah, we really need to reduce stress and support the thyroid for progesterone. So classic herb you may have heard of would be Vitex agnus castus. It's always recommended for hormonal protocols. It does not work for everyone. In fact, some people it can make things worse. So this is why there are lots of other herbs that perhaps don't get as much attention, such as saffron and vervain, which can also be really lovely for progesterone. Okay, testosterone. Yeah, so testosterone. So saw palmetto is the one that is commonly used to stop that conversion of testosterone to dihydrotestosterone. Spearmint as well, cinnamon, licorice, white peony. Licorice and white peony is a classic sort of Japanese formula for PCOS. And yeah, I've used it with a lot of success with clients. A lot of people do. It's quite standard actually, but really, really lovely because it's working on all these levels in terms of balancing blood sugar, supporting liver, all this sort of stuff. Inositol as a supplement really can be really good for blood sugar balancing as well, PCOS, and N-acetylcysteine. So if I am just not making sense to you, do not worry, because basically this is the bit where if you want to learn more, I've got so much for you. I can really, really take you on a journey for sorting out hormones, because obviously, I think, to be honest, as I said, I think all of this, if you just add in a few of these things, you're going to get the answers. So I hope some of you that have found this helpful just to sort of get going with, because I appreciate not all of you were like, don't upsell me, Izzy. But I have to, sorry. Because I'm just so excited about this. Thanks, Sylvia, have a good evening. Because basically I have a whole course where I've just added in, I've realized I went straight to detoxification, gut, adrenals, thyroid, all this sort of stuff. But I'm starting with cycle awareness. So actually understanding what's happening with your hormones throughout the cycle, I think that's probably the best place to start. Then we'll be talking about all the nitty gritty stuff around detoxification, gut function, understanding sort of the role that histamine plays, thinking about candida, all these sorts of things, the adrenals, talking about the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. We're getting quite, now I don't want to overwhelm people that I don't know what any of this means, because as I said, I'll be taking people through from the, I guess, very basics to the stuff that I spent tens of thousands of pounds learning at school. But, you know, when I was learning, I couldn't afford to pay for a naturopath to heal me. So whilst I was learning, I did all this stuff, and that's how I sorted my own health out. So this is why I really believe I don't want to be the sort of person that just gives you like a standard protocol, dog scratching the door, a standard protocol, which will, everyone has to follow. It's like a diet and, you know, blah, 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 blah. Like, I actually want people to understand what's happening in their bodies so that you are completely empowered to not just be reliant on this one diet to fix your hormones. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's a whole, yeah, it's for me, this is how I sorted myself out, and so I just wanted to share this with other people, because I just think knowledge is power. It is, but of course I will be adding in the protocols so it actually makes it actionable. So for example, you know, we will be going through like the classic sort of gut protocols that you can implement to start making the difference from the gut function, etc., etc. So I will make it really easy, sort of step-by-step type thing as well. So, and of course, I know quite a few of you are into the herbs, so I'll be going into a lot more detail on the herbs as well. So along with this, oh, Susie, yay! But the thing is, it's not just about you know, me just overwhelming you with information. As you know, I said, I'll take it step by step, but at the same time, you know, I want actionable things that you can do, which are more that yummy, like from the naturopathic side. So, you know, using castor oil packs, thinking about yoni steams, herbal compresses. Like, this is the thing, it's combining that knowledge of functional medicine, but with the wisdom that women have been doing for years, and how we can really, again, support our body, think about self-care. I think pretty much all of my clients that come to see me with hormonal issues probably have taken some sort of like hormonal birth control type thing. So again, it's you know, the impact that has had or is having on the body, how to restore, repair. And then of course, you know, when it's empowering, it's all about going to the GP and knowing what you want to ask for as well. So I've got a whole class on hormone testing, because a lot of people might have issues because they're like, I really, really want to know about my thyroid, but he's just testing my thyroid stimulating hormone and I can't see what else is going on. So understanding when you might want to go private, I can share my test discounts with you as well. Like, you know, I'm here to help, basically. This is like a community of support for every aspect of hormonal healing. Then actually everyone will be getting herbal teas to go on the journey. So for those of you that haven't tried my teas, the womb tea, I don't know, I get people messaging me telling me they're pregnant after womb tea. It's like just a hero of periods. But then also we've got cleanse tea, which is sort of about liver detoxification, sun tea, all that sort of stuff. I'm about to run out of battery. And then, oh yeah, this is really exciting. I'll be doing a full-on personalized symptom analysis so that you can actually really understand the priority areas that you need to focus on. So just a little example, you know, maybe for you, it's sugar, and the sort of blood sugar balance is going to be the important one to address. So obviously we'll be covering that in the masterclasses, but that's where you know where you need to focus. And then we'll have group calls, because I don't know, I think support's really important if you need it. I've got a little testimonial from one of my clients who she said that I saved her life through just supporting her. So yeah, I don't know. To be fair with her, like, she did get tapping and stuff as well. We can do tapping. In fact, actually, that leads me on to my next bit, because, you know, I like the intellectual side, but I do think there's such a big role that trauma and the emotions play in dealing with anything around our womb, because we've all got sort of trauma of some sort. So I brought in my friends that are very much there to support you on that level too. So Poppy, she's incredible. She makes really beautiful, she's a herbalist that makes really beautiful like skincare oils, that sort of thing. She'll be teaching you how to do a womb massage, sharing like when best to do a womb massage on your cycle, that sort of thing. Paola, she does Reiki, so she'll be doing sort of meditation healing with Reiki. Alison's great at sort of, she specializes in trauma and breath work. I know some of you again have probably worked with her before. Sadia will be doing tapping, and so I did say I was doing tapping with a client. So Sadia, she's actually sort of my kinesiology mentor, so she taught me all about all this sort of stuff. So she'll be covering tapping, and then obviously we've got to bring in the Rose. So there will be like a little journey to connect with Rose, which is our sort of, I mean, you know, if we embody the Rose, then we're doing all right, aren't we? So yeah, so that's quickly just on my Reclaim Your Cycle. So if you want to join, well, if you've got any questions about it, then obviously you've got my details there, or you can sign up as well. But yeah, I mean, generally, do you have any questions? Well, Vicky, you love castor oil packs, so that is great. Because I do too. And there's a really lovely place that's just made a castor oil pack, which is all designed so it doesn't get all messy. Like it's, I'll share that with you. Castor Vida. I think I've got a discount at the minute. But yeah, Susie, thank you. I think it sounds great as well. I'm really excited about this one. But yeah, I think for me, it's really hard because I'm in clinic. So I'm not like a, marketing type person, but I just felt the need to, get some more stuff out there. So I'm hoping like, obviously I'll be sharing the recording of this. I'll be getting the slides out to you. So, like obviously, even if you don't join, I'm hoping even just this session will be helpful. I'm trying to get more on Instagram and email newsletters and stuff, because I think, the problem is people aren't getting healthier. So I just want people to start getting healthier. And yeah, so just, let me know if anyone does have any questions or anything you want to hear about specifically. Oh my gosh, Susie, bless, thank you. That's my heart. Yes, please share along. Oh, Raina, thank you. Oh, you're also wonderful. So I'll stop recording. How do I do that?